right? There has been thought put into the nature of the security of your business and the data that you hold, especially if you are holding data from external parties like the federal government and the DoD and large prime contractors, and the data has sensitivity attached, much in the same way that companies would need to be concerned with privacy information and protecting its confidentiality. Manufacturers need to be concerned with protecting the confidentiality of sensitive government data. They are very closely related. So
Yeah.
management decisions are captured via policy. That is how they are promulgated. And so if you have controls and technologies, if you're spending your money on security, it should only be there because it's what you want, not because what someone sold you or what your managed service provider told you is a good idea, right? It should be there
Hmm.
because that's what you wanted to be there. And so
Yeah.
if an assessor shows up and you say, well, we have all of this functionality in our ecosystem, but we don't have any documented policy or procedure whatsoever, it is an immediate red flag that you wrote a check and you have no idea what's going on. You don't know why it's there. You don't know who's doing what or why. And that just causes everything to snowball out of control. So everyone has realized that the market will not reward and police this problem by itself. The issue with regulation is that it is very slow. It's very reactive and it's very imprecise and it's written by the government and it's not very clear and it's super complicated. But it's really one of the only options that the government has to try to force the system to self-correct. And, as we were talking before we started recording, that suddenly makes the world of compliance and governance and risk management one of the most important aspects of cybersecurity, because really the thing that ties the world of business and the world of security together is the forcing function of regulations. And in my perspective, on a long enough timeline, everything is getting regulated. I mean, you can't throw a dart at a random topic out there and it's not being regulated from a cybersecurity perspective or about to be. So CMMC, like we said, is just a sneak preview of what's coming around the corner, regardless of what industry or vertical you're in. There's a lot of people who say, oh, we only do a little bit of DoD work and we don't want to deal with these regulations, so we're not going to do DoD work anymore. Okay, but you can't run forever, and it's coming. Yeah, cybersecurity is getting worse overall, and it is getting worse oftentimes in sectors that have near unlimited budgets and very advanced technology for cybersecurity. It is clear, I think, that cybersecurity is not a technology problem, right? It is an element of a technology problem, but most business environments, most manufacturing environments don't really have technology that changes on a super, super fast basis compared to financial services or very high tech software only cloud native companies. I mean, you have technology that changes, but it's a slower process of change. So it can't just be that their technology environments are changing so quickly that they can't keep up. The process of knowing what data you have and what regulations that you are under and what that means and what you can and can't do and sort of how that is translated into your environment isn't really a technology function. The sort of world of governance, risk, and compliance isn't really a technology aspect. It's more of the interface between your business environment and the world of technology, right? We digitized everything. We plugged everything together and networked it all together. And it wasn't until a regulation came around that we started thinking about, well, what does our managed service provider do for us? What does this external company that has access to our equipment under the name of maintenance? What accesses do they have to our network? And what data do we have in our environment? And what are the rules that govern that data? Those are organizational debts. And that's not really something that a piece of technology can fix for you.
Okay, so over half of Assembly's audience is in management at assembly plants. I'm pretty sure that's actually 60%. So as everything continues to evolve, how can plants stay ahead?
So, given the fact that the majority of manufacturers in the United States tend to be smaller rather than larger, which is, true of most businesses. It is an unfortunate reality that most small businesses are just behind the curve with their ability to keep up with cybersecurity because they are small. They don't have the workforce, they don't have the budgets, they don't have, they don't have the manpower of a company the size of Bank of America or a company like that to just sort of deal with security. So you're already starting shorthanded. Now, your ability to understand the requirements is one thing. Your ability to then deal with the requirements is another. Almost always, these problems with dealing with the cloud and dealing with regulations and dealing with the ongoing management of your technical and organizational debts are things that you're going to have to outsource to a managed service provider. Like I said, Summit 7 is one of those companies. This is we make a living just dealing with DIB manufacturers, right? So the key to success is partnering with a company that understands what's going on. What we see a lot of is that small manufacturers have external IT service providers, managed service providers, and those managed service providers maybe sometimes deal with HIPAA, the healthcare information regulation that exists. And they go, well, HIPAA is, a regulation. CMMC is a regulation. How different could they be? We help clients with one, we can help you with the other. It is not that simple, right? So the key is to work with a external service provider that understands what's going on. And if you talk to your external service provider and they say, yeah, we understand what's going on, we got it, just verify what that means. Because I will tell everybody that within the world of managed service providers, very few of them are oriented to security and very few of them are oriented to security and compliance. The nature of the external IT services industry is designed to manage as many companies as possible with as much margin as possible, trying to do basically as little work as possible through automating everything, just trying to be your outsourced IT department. Like we said before, this is not a technology problem, which means if you are outsourcing your services to a technology company, then there's a very good chance that they don't have a understanding of the problem that they should have. Just like, a normal company, like we talked about before, may not have a good understanding of the problem. So the number one way to evaluate, sort of to do the smell test, is by asking those companies how familiar they are with a document called NIST SP 800-171A. This is explained in one of the videos that we'll link here. Is the relationship between 171 and 171A is critically important. It is as important to understand 171 and 171A as it is to understand the difference between 171 and CMMC. Requirements and the program that assesses those requirements. 171 is the requirements. 171A is the assessment procedures. 171A answers the questions, how do you know that a control is fully implemented, right? You only get credit for a control that is fully implemented. And what typically happens is people read 800-171, they read CMMC, and they go, what the heck does that mean? This is such an open-ended, nebulous requirement. I don't understand what they want. Like, how do I know that I did it correctly? Well, the answer is in 171A. And just like we talked about at the beginning, the government doesn't really tell you that. They don't really explain to you the relationship between 171 and 171A. The center of gravity behind this entire conversation is contained in 171A. So for instance, there's 110 requirements in 171. In order to verify that they are actually implemented, there are 320 questions that you should be able to answer confidently in 171A. So if you have a managed service provider, if you have a technology provider, if you have a consulting firm, if you have anybody that is claiming to be able to help you with 800-171, the number one thing that you should ask them is, how do you deal with 171A? And they should be able to tell you immediately, we understand what it means. Here's what we map to. Here's what we support. There should be a laundry list of things that they should explain to you that should give you the warm and
Green
fuzzy
flags.
that these people know what's going on. If they go, what's that? Or
Right.
that, or CMMC is not 170. If you get any pushback whatsoever and it makes you feel suspicious, you're probably correct, right?
Yeah.
Everything should orient around 171A. We have it explained in the videos. It is the number one thing that will make your life more simple in terms of, because I mean, let's be real here. Most companies are not implementing the technologies to support these requirements. They're paying somebody else to do it. So how do you know that you're not getting a lemon? How do you know that the claims that they're selling you are true? If you wait until assessment day to find out that your managed service provider sold you a load of crap, you're going
Hmm.
to be in a really bad position because
Hmm.
you're not going to be able to get those data flows and those contracts from the government anymore, and you're going to have to go sue your man. It's a huge mess. It's a
Right.
huge mess.
It reminds me of, I was listening to a podcast you were on, and you said something along the lines of, in this world, you don't know that something is missing, or until something goes wrong, you don't know
Mhm.
that like things weren't in place or something like that. I can't remember what you said
Yeah,
exactly.
it's a so back to the obscure world of economic metaphors. So you ever hear of a car where it's called you're buying a lemon, right?
Yes.
You don't know the car is bad until after you buy it.
It
So
looks good.
it looks fine. You kick the tires, it starts, you're like, it's
Hmm.
fine, right?
Hmm.
Well, a
Hmm.
lot of states have lemon laws where if your car explodes shortly after you buy it, it's not your fault, right? You got sold a lemon, right? There's some responsibility here on behalf of the people selling you this product. And one of the ways that economists have described the world of cybersecurity is that it is a market for lemons. Because when I say my company is secure, what does that mean? If you have a company and I have a company, and you spend $1 million on security and I spend $0 on security, and over the course of a year, neither of us get hacked, are you more secure than I am? How do you know? Right? You don't. And this is why companies will never spend enough money to be fully secure, because you'll never know when you are outside of lemon territory. And this is part of the reason why assessments are actually very valuable. They feel annoying because they're regulated and people are coming to assess you. But the reason why assessments should be valuable internally is, how do you know, Mr. or Mrs. Business Owner, that this technology that you bought, or this service provider that you're paying on a monthly basis, typically a lot of money, is doing what you want them to do? That is what NIST 800-171A attempts to answer. It really attempts to answer three things. Are the controls implemented correctly? Are they producing the desired outcomes? And are they operating the way that you intended them to? If you just guess and they say, we do CMMC, $5,000 a month. We do CMMC and you'll be good in 2 days. We do CMMC and it's $28, 5 easy payments of 28. What is, we don't know what any of that means, right?
Red flags.
Red flags.
It
The
should,
number one way, yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have a
Can
way
we
to do
just,
it,
we'll have a
but
lot
yeah,
of
exactly.
animated red flags.
Yeah,
If you hear
exactly.
any of that nonsense, it
Uh-huh.
sounds great. But it is not what you should make your decision off of. You should
Okay.
ask them, what does 171A mean? If you want more information, we have the video. I'm also very easy to find. Find me on LinkedIn.
Great.
It's very easy to get a hold of Summit 7. And I literally talk about this stuff all day long. I will explain 800-171A to anyone who wants to listen.
Jacob, I think that seems like a really good place to close. Is there anything? My last question was a piece of advice. I feel like you covered a lot just now. Is there anything that you would like to add before we wrap up today?
Yeah, just on the note about 171A, if you look hard enough, the goal of 800-171A is shared by the assessors and by the business owners, right? The irony here is that the assurances that the government is looking for are the same things that you are looking for when you're spending your money on cybersecurity. And ironically, the questions that you should use to figure out if you're being ripped off or not are the same questions that the government is going to come ask you to figure out if they're being ripped off or not. So if you sort of change your perspective on the questions that the regulators are asking you, you can kill two birds with one stone here, not experience any surprises on assessment day, and also be much more confident that your money is being spent on the things that you need to spend it on.
Wonderful. Well, I know when I called you a guru and an expert in the beginning, but you were a little bit, hesitant about that, but I feel like it's true. I mean, we just spoke. It was a wonderful experience. You just spoke for a long time. I really appreciate your time today. It was certainly valuable for me, and I hope that everyone really enjoys what we recorded. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That's a great opportunity. Thank you.
Awesome. For more insights on assembling discrete parts into finished products and the people behind it all, visit our website, assemblymag.com. And be sure to subscribe to the podcast to keep up with our latest episodes. We're also on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, so we invite you to follow us there too. This has been Assembly Audible. Thanks for listening.